record on this computer. Okay, so there's a couple of things I wanted to be sure to say before I forget. One is obviously that I am recording. There are a number of people who can't make the live, but who watch the recordings. Excuse me. And so I really appreciate it if the people who can make the live, please ask all the questions you want. Ask as many questions as you want, anything that comes to mind, because you're kind of standing in for all the people who can't be here and can't ask questions. And I talk about these subjects a lot, and I have a pretty good idea about a lot of the questions people ask, but there are always new ones and they're fascinating. So please feel free to interrupt, jump in whenever you feel like. Diana, do you have any questions from the last session?
I'm embarrassed to admit I haven't watched it yet, so no.
Oh, okay, no problem. I forgot you weren't there. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you out. I had in my head that you've been in all of them, so I'm sorry about that. Never mind.
But I mean, you were just saying something about the Earth, and since Earth is part of me, did you say it was being connected to something higher or a purpose? Or?
Okay, so I'll give a brief recap because I did mention this last session. So we're talking here about the animals. We're talking about rats and tigers and dogs and sheep. And a lot of people, when they look up their zodiac sign, they see I'm an earth sheep or a water tiger, or Diana, I'm sorry, I do not remember what you are. You're
pig or boar, or however you like to
yeah,
say
you're something pig. So I am a fire tiger. Malky, who will hopefully joining us soon, is a wood tiger. And so someone asked me, a couple of people actually asked me, someone in the Facebook group asked, what does that mean? Like, what is this wood, earth, water that's attached to the animals? And so I explained that there are two different main cycles of energy we look at. The animals are a 12-year cycle. We have 12 animals. And then we have a different 10-year cycle where each of the elements repeats once in a yin form and once in a yang form. And so when we say you're, for example, an earth sheep or an earth goat, that earth, sorry, I'm just gonna let someone in, that earth gives me enough information to extrapolate out because I know the combinations that the energies in that other cycle come in. So I have all the information in the word sheep, and also with that earth, I know that that's a mix of, hang on to see if I'm going to forget this now. That's a mix of two different earth energies and a fire energy that are all bundled together in that word earth. And so because there's this standard formula for describing the cycles of energy, we take one word from this cycle, one word from that cycle, put them together, and I can build out a map that shows how multiple different energies interact. And so I didn't say anything specific about the earth sheep, but we will get there. We will get to the sheep, we will get to the pig. And if people want, then we can go on from here to discuss also the other cycle of the energy. All right, and you asked about purpose and meaning. So I said that the animals describe more about a person's personality in terms of our relationships to people, to things, to our job, to our environment. So kind of how we interact with things on a day-to-day level, whereas the other cycle of energy, which is the heavenly stems, describes more about our connection to heaven. It's more of a vertical connection. And so that's where we look more at things like, what is my purpose in life? What is what is my meaning? Why am I here? What am I actually supposed to be doing? And the animal, just like with the animals, when we describe what someone does and how they do it, so we can look at at your heavenly stem energy as what you do, and the animal as how you do it at a slightly different layer of perception. So since we're on that subject, one other thing I wanted to mention, because I was asked about this, is a couple people said that they could see everyone around them, like, oh, my boyfriend is definitely his animal, my mom's her animal, my kid is his animal, but I don't really feel it for me. Like, I don't know, I don't feel like I'm a goat. I don't think I really match the description of an ox. And actually, I was the same way when I first started learning the system. Like, I really connected to my heavenly energy, and I did not so much connect to the animal. And so I think the reason for that is because we see it a lot. Since the animal describes relationships and how we interact with people and with things, it's really easy to see when we look at someone else. We see how they interact with us. That's their animal, really obvious. When we're looking at ourselves, we're looking from the inside, and our personal experience is a lot more of that heavenly stem energy. It's a lot more of that other cycle of energy, because I think that our experience of how we interact with the people around us, it's important, but we really do spend, most of us, a lot more time by ourselves and living our internal life than we do really connecting to things outside of us. And so we're much more likely to see this other energy in ourselves, this mix of earth energy that Marilla has, or this mix of wood and, hang on, I can do this, wood and water and earth that Malky has, or Diana, whatever you have. I'm sorry, I'll look up your birth date when we're done.
Earth.
Earth, you're the earth pig? Okay, cool. So you're like Marilla, so that's earth and some fire in there. Yeah, so that's kind of, I just wanted to mention, because a number of people had asked about that. It's really normal to see everyone else's animal and not so much to connect with ours until we've learned about it a little more in depth and start seeing how we interact with things around us. That is all the things I wanted to remember to tell people before we get started. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, then. So we are here to talk about the year of the tiger, or people born in the year of the tiger. And I'm just going to grab, hang on, I have them saved here. These are the dates of years, the recent years of the tiger, because as I keep mentioning, the Chinese calendar is a lunar-solar calendar, and New Year, the Chinese New Year does not correspond with the Gregorian New Year. The Chinese New Year will always fall between the 21st of January and the 21st of February, because it's the first new moon after January 20th. I think it's the second new moon after the winter solstice. It's a solstice in the winter. Anyway, no one else has to know that, but I've put the dates of the years of the tiger in the chat, should you want to just check anyone who comes to mind real quick while we're talking. The tiger is particularly interesting because we're currently in the year of the tiger. And so they say that all of the qualities, all of the energy of tiger people are going to be expressed more strongly this year. It's like we have these natural inclinations and a natural tendency to behave in a certain way. And when the energy that's surrounding us is encouraging that, then we're likely to act, us tiger people will be even more tiger-like. And traditionally in Chinese culture, a person's year, the year of their animal, so like I was born in the year of the tiger, so this is my year, is considered to be a year of bad luck for them, a year when bad things can happen. And I thought for a very long time and looked around and studied and tried to understand why this is actually the case. And it seems to me that when someone has a natural tendency towards certain types of behavior, as a general rule, what most of us work on is bringing ourselves back towards a gentle medium and moderating our extreme behavioral tendencies. And so for people who have less healthy behaviors, anything that comes along and encourages them to be more like that, to be more extreme, will probably not be so good for them. So tigers, for example, can be impulsive. Tigers can have trouble saving money, all sorts of other things. There's many wonderful things about tigers, but if you have an impulsive personality, if you're someone who likes to spend money and share it and give it away, And then you're encouraged to be even more like that. This can lead to some problematic behaviors. And so that's the only thing I've really managed to come up with as an explanation for why someone's zodiac year is considered to be bad luck for them. But if what you need is actually to get more in touch with your animal, to be more tiger-like or to be more sheep-like or more pig-like, then it might actually be a really great time to kind of reset and come back to yourself and connect to yourself and to your natural energy and way of being. Okay, so on to the tiger. So when we look at the mix of energies that make up a tiger, the first thing we see when we look at the tiger is that it embodies the metal energy. And yes, Malky's going to start making faces because tigers are all about metal energy, where metal obviously represents a lot of things, but it represents this concept of clarity and boundaries and decision making, and values, as in knowing what we value, how to prioritize things. It's all about gratitude and appreciation, the ability to appreciate the value something has, to appreciate what's good for me, or even to appreciate the fact that something isn't good for me and therefore maybe I should stay away from it. It's all about judgment, I think, is really, really what it comes down to. The clarity to see and make an accurate judgment of what's right or wrong, what's correct for me or inappropriate for me, where my boundary is, when someone has crossed a boundary. All of these things are metal, and all of these things, Malky, are what tigers give to other people. They don't necessarily have it for themselves. Okay?
Now that you put it like that, all of a sudden the light bulb, I don't know if you saw it go on over my head, but this is exactly what other people see in me.
Yep.
I wish I could too.
Yep. So I think you missed why we don't see our animals in ourselves.
I was here for that. And yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
I very much relate to that. Yes.
Yes. So yes, so I'm just gonna out Malky all over the place because this is what I use her for. But Malky told me that it took her, I think we started talking about your map 10 years ago, and last month you started feeling like you were getting in touch with your metal energy. Yeah.
Yeah, not right.
Yep. Yeah. So this is what tigers give to other people, and you can kind of see why that was connected with the idea of a predator, right? Like, this far, no further. That is my boundary. I will defend it. This is what you will do, and this is what you will not do. This is this is how close you can come to me, and after that, I will bite you or rip your face off, as the case may be. And if you picture a cat, like a house cat who likes to have her belly rubbed, and you can pet her 2 1/3 times, and then you're going to get bit, right? That cat has a very clear sense of what exactly her boundaries are, what she wants, what she doesn't want. She enforces it. And that is that very tiger-like behavior. So having looked at the what tigers do, how tigers do this is through use of the wood energy. So the wood represents growth and creativity and beginnings and newness and movement and change and strength and power, and it represents childhood and to growing and develop and always striving to be better and always reaching for the heavens, because the wood is a poor translation. It really should be tree or woods is in a forest. It always is all about the growth and the reaching towards heaven, the reaching towards an ideal. And so what tigers have to give to other people is this clarity and boundaries and borders and decisiveness and righteousness and values and appreciation and gratitude, blah, 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 through movement and creativity and change and supporting growth And so, yeah, I'm just a big fluffy cat and I'm going to sit here until something needs to get done and then you're going to know about it. And so we have a lot of power and we have a lot of force and we have a lot of certainty in ourselves and in what we believe to be true. And we have the power to generally cause what our will to be done if we're willing to work hard enough at it. And so what tigers need to keep them in balance is tigers need to have a connection to a higher cause. And so a tiger's supporting energy or growth energy is fire energy, similar to the rat, but in the tiger's case, it's the heavenly fire. Tigers need to be connected to a cause, to something higher, to something of significance. So the rat needs to be connected to the people around them. The rat needs their tribe. The rat needs a family and friends, and to be kept at this very like, we're all together, we're all working together, don't go off on your own too much, stay with the pack and help everyone. And the tiger needs to use all of their strength and all of their ability to change and to decide, to place judgments, and they need to do that for a higher cause. Otherwise, they just turn into bullies. And so what a tiger needs from their surroundings is, again, similar to the rat. They need human connection. They need that sense of connection, that sense of unity, of being part of something, but it will not be enough in their case for it to be part of a knitting group, right? A rat might be brought into balance by, you're sitting around, especially if, a wood stove, everyone knitting and chatting and drinking, and that's going to keep a rat centered and balanced and grounded. That's not going to be enough for a tiger unless maybe you're knitting blankets for premature babies who are in incubators in hospitals. I met someone this week who does this. And then you might have the tiger. The tiger will be like, okay, there's a reason, there's a cause. And so I'm going to show up every week and I'm going to knit the best possible blanket. And along the way, I'll have these human connections, we'll chat, we'll get to know each other, but there has to be a cause. The tiger's not going to stick with it if it's just about the chatting. And so that means that for people outside tigers who want to give them help and support and help balance them, it can be a little harder maybe to come to, you can't just drop off a cake. That would work for an ox. You can here's a meal that I prepared for you. You can just sit back and eat it and be nourished, and you didn't have to make it. Someone else is taking care of you. You're not alone in life. And for a rat, you can come along and you can provide companionship and warmth and connection. And a tiger will need that sense that they're being part of something larger. And so what you can do for a tiger is give them the opportunity to feel that way. Either help them see how something they're already doing is part of a larger cause, or to come up with opportunities for ways that they can join into something. And so, for example, we talked for one of the other animals about folk dancing as something they can do that's like movement and connection and learning, and can help balance them. So if you add in, if you can make it somehow, if it's folk dancing to keep alive the ancient rituals of our grandmothers, then you can get the tiger. Then the tiger will feel that connection and that support. If you're going to pottery class because you're from a culture that has very distinct and unique pottery, and you want to help maintain, not necessarily to get a sense of connection to our ancestors, that's less the tiger, but to help maintain and show others this culture, this aspect of the culture that I am part of. If you want to get a tiger to go running, then probably some sort of charity run is going to, now I'm thinking about how I got into running. Never mind. Yep, that is exact. I was like, you want to run 5 kilometers in order to raise money for our nonprofit? And I went, I hate running. I have never run more than a kilometer. Nothing will be chasing me. Why have I signed up for this? Yeah, like I'm just realizing like my first 5 races were charity runs. Malky, do you have anything to contribute as a tiger at this point?
Actually, strangely enough, I do. I just realized, okay, I have a history of freaking people out when I hear that they have a new job, because my first instinct is to connect to what an important job it is that they're doing.
Mhm.
And I want to tell them all about how important this job is. And I have actually really inadvertently hurt a couple of people like this, because they go from like, I'm just an engineer, to, oh my goodness, I can't live up to that. I have to go back to school for a PhD.
Oh my God, yes. So there's a study once on janitors in hospitals, where janitors, and it's a big study, was done in the US, where they asked janitors, what is their job? And the ones who said, I'm a janitor, I clean up mess, I wash the floors, that was one group. And then the other group were janitors who said, I help people get better. I help run a hospital. I help save lives. And the second group of janitors were healthier, they were happier, they stayed in their jobs longer, were more willing to work overtime, and so on and so forth. But yeah, you don't necessarily have to change what you're doing. If you can change your relationship to it, is like a really important lesson for tigers, for everyone, but especially for tigers. Like if you can't change your circumstances, can you find something in your circumstances that will give you what you need?
Yes, but I'm thinking that other animals don't need this at all. So
I mean, everyone, it's good for everyone to have that sense of meaning and purpose. But yeah, maybe like we said, everyone needs everything, right? It's not that tigers don't need companionship, and it's not that oxen don't need a sense of purpose. It's just that each person has this one thing that if they don't get it, the other stuff isn't going to matter. So it's not that oxen don't need a sense of purpose, but it probably confuses them if you're going to come in and be like, oh my God, your job is all about this purpose, because an ox doesn't need that from their job, because an ox just goes through life being like, I walk in a straight line in the best possible way. I am going towards the future, and whatever I do on the way, I will do the way it needs to be done. And they're just like that's their purpose is just like living their life. And just by going around living their life, they're going to do it in the right way, in the best possible way, because they're oxen and that's what they do.
Awesome. Excuse me, Chava, we've got the
Yes.
screaming kid again. Would closing the window help?
We've got what again?
A screaming child. It's paused for the moment, but it keeps coming.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear anything, but if it's on I will close my window just in case it's on my end. Sorry, 1 second.
I feel for Chava here. I had a coaching call, and there was a birthday party.
Oh no.
So I'm trying to host, I'm trying to like, create this atmosphere for my client, and like, birthday songs and screaming children are right outside my window. We made it through. It was fine.
That's good. I'm sorry about that. It's definitely something I've noticed since being on Zoom so much, is that high pitched noises transfer much better and they can sound much louder at the other end. Yes. So, okay. Oh, right. Marilla's left. She said she would have to leave at 5:30. So bye, Marilla. Or if you watch this far, it was nice having you. Okay. Any other tiger related questions?
Honestly, as a tiger, I just need to sit with this again.
Well,
Again. It seems to seep in very slowly. Is that also a tiger thing, or is that just
No,
me?
well, I don't think we've ever really discussed this aspect of it in this way.
Mhm.
Like we've looked more at all sorts of other things about being a tiger. This is one of the reasons that I wanted to do this series of talks, is because I don't think anyone talks about this. Like I know no one who talks about this anywhere. And I found it to be one of the most useful things when I'm working with my coaching clients. So that, yeah,
Yes.
that's why we're here.
okay,
Yeah.
I know a tiger,
Uh-huh.
and I'm having my mother, and I'm having trouble seeing her as a tiger in the description. And so I'm wondering what happens if you have a broken tiger.
Right. Yeah. So I'm actually reading a book now that's about like how people can be damaged by their childhoods. Because Amazon's like, you like reading books about personalities and how people develop. Here are some depressing ones. So what happens with a damaged tiger? So a tiger who didn't get the support that they needed to grow up in and express their energy in a healthy way, is generally that they become very aggressive, or rather that all of their power isn't restrained by a sense of right and wrong, and an appreciation for values, and they end up, okay, I mean, I know we keep saying we shouldn't take I keep saying we shouldn't take the animals too literally, but you know about the man-eating tigers in, I do not remember what country. There's like an action.
At least India, possibly other ones, but definitely
Yeah, but no,
India.
there's a specific book. It was the man-eating tigers of something. It was an actual historical book back when books had much cooler titles. So an actual tiger, a real live animal, when it's living in its natural environment, it sleeps a lot. It gets up, it stretches, it plays a bit, it chases its tail, and then it goes and it looks for the easiest possible thing to hunt that's going to give it enough calories. And it chases whatever it is down. They are carnivores, you know, gazelle, I really don't know. And it catches it and it eats it, it cleans itself up, and it goes back to lying around. The tigers in this specific city where they were trying to build a railroad at some point in the 1800s, I will have to look up the details. The book's on Gutenberg. It was two tigers, there's a male and a female, they were a pair, and one of them at some point killed a human, presumably because they were very hungry or very scared. And the best possible understanding of the people who are trying to avoid getting eaten by this tiger and or catch and kill these tigers, because the other one got involved, is that killing the human was like so scary and exciting and challenging and just completely different from their normal experience of basically lying around being a cat and sometimes eating something, that like they couldn't stop. They got addicted to hunting down people because people were so much more exciting and bigger and maybe scarier, and it made the tiger feel more powerful to hunt down and kill a person than a baby gazelle. And at the end of the book, they managed to shoot the tigers, and the tigers stopped eating people, and they managed to build the railway through presumably the tiger's territory. I don't know if it's a happy ending or what, but they're just like people who studied tigers, naturalists and zoologists who like went out into the woods and studied tigers, were like, so we have normal tigers and then we have these tigers, and these are not normal tigers. They got too scared or too aggressive, and they kind of snapped, and then they just kept eating people because it was more fun than anything else they could think of to do. That got really dark, but I mean, human beings get really dark, and each of us has our own ways that we can kind of snap. But what you're going to get in a tiger with who wasn't given the tools to control themselves or to restrain themselves, is you're going to get all of that power, and you still have the perception. You have the ability to see weaknesses and boundaries and what people value and what people prioritize. And you can use all of that power to do a lot of harm. And I was listening, there was Jordan Peterson in his lectures on Genesis. So he says at some point, he says, like, why after Adam and Eve eat the apple are they like, oh my God, we're naked and we're vulnerable? How do they know those go together? Okay, you realize you're naked because you ate an apple and now you have more, or whatever fruit it was, and you have more knowledge, and you know you're naked, but why does that mean we're vulnerable? So he says, the moment you can see your own self clearly, you know how to hurt other people. If you have that perception to see what's going on with you, then you know how to attack others. So yeah, so tigers can be vicious bitches. Tigers know how to make snipey comments. Tigers know, how to go for, that one piece of acne that you're hoping no one will notice. Tigers can pick up on people who are feeling vulnerable, who are feeling weak, and hopefully they'll do that in order to help support them. But whether we see the world around us as something that supports us and that we want to support back, or as something that has attacked and harmed us ever since we were kids, and so we're gonna hit first, that's a lot more nurture than nature.
Yeah, well, what you said at the beginning about having all this force and not having a sense of right or wrong to control it.
Mm-hmm.
That sounded familiar. Also, an interesting thing, about being attached to something higher. My mother was a devout atheist, and so it's kind of like, so it's like I wouldn't think of it, but in a way, maybe it was for her an attachment to something that she really sincerely believed in. It's hard to think of that as a higher power, but
no, well, I heard today someone was talking about, I think Richard Dawkins has a new book, and he was like, England's foremost, most believing atheist. And yeah, I mean, someone was telling me about their friend who's an atheist, and he's like, he's not like an atheist. He just doesn't believe in God. He just like goes around living a life. As opposed to people who are atheists with a capital A, and about it, just like people who have done a triathlon or run a marathon.
Yep.
So
okay.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things, and yeah, I mean, and like I said, everyone can go off the rails. And what they say about ox kids is they have to have good parents who will teach them right from wrong, because once you tell an ox what to do, that's what they're going to do. And they're going to do it all through life. And if an ox grew up in an abusive family where they're taught that it's okay to hit people, or they grew up in part of a crime syndicate and they're taught that it's okay to steal and murder, like what you teach them, they're going to do, and they're going to do it well. And rats, if they lose their connection to their tribe, to that feeling that they belong and that they're part of something, they can just turn on people and be vicious. And you might prefer to be gutted by a tiger than chewed to bits by a rat. So yeah, I mean, there's I have not read anything by Tolstoy, I don't think, but there's that line, happy families are all the same and each unhappy family is unhappy in its own special way, or something like that.
That's interesting, because Because of course, the version that I remember is completely the opposite of that, which is that healthy people tend to be healthy in different ways, and people who are emotionally messed up tend to be very similar.
So there is that, and I've run into that version as well, that people who are healthy and supported and well balanced have the ability to develop into their own unique selves, whereas people who are not allowed to develop, they're gonna twist in the direction that they were twisted. And so you tend to come up with recurring themes. But on the other hand, I think you can also look at it as like people who are healthy and balanced and so on all live in the same reality, more or less, roughly, as much as we can. But each person who's disconnected from the shared reality goes off and finds their own little corner to play in. And so it can be hard. And so it's not like you've connected to one person with some sort of mental problem and you'll necessarily be able to connect to another person with the same diagnosis. Whereas if you can have a conversation with one person who inhabits what we think of as shared reality, you'll probably be able to have a conversation with another person who lives in the same shared reality. Even if you don't necessarily get along or become great friends, you'll be able to communicate and coordinate and work together.
Okay, so I had your question earlier about one, and so I'll ask it specifically for tigers. It's your one weekend off.
Okay.
You're burned out. You need to do something to recharge. What would help a tiger?
Okay, so believe it or not, I mean, right now I just want to sleep all weekend. But on that weekend, I will go to my synagogue and lead services, which it's something that a lot of people don't like to do. I, in fact, have a friend who studies anxiety and stage fright, and he says that only 10% of men in the standard Orthodox synagogue are willing to take part in any active way in services. But when I am, when that's not necessarily what relaxes me or helps me feel rested, but however bad a day I'm having, if I get a text at the last minute, I'm sorry, someone can't make it, can you start evening services? Then once I'm done with leading a bunch of people in singing songs, I'm centered again.
Even more than if you were just part of the group singing songs.
Yes. That's good too. But definitely, as grumpy as it makes me if I've been having a bad week at the last minute, to be like, oh, I have to be there on time, I have to do some voice exercises first, I feel better afterwards.
Cool.
That's the best thing I found for me. And fortunately, most of the women in my show have small children and don't tend to make it to services on time, so I get to do that a lot. Unexpected benefits. What about you, Malky? You're on mute.
Yes, I was. Okay, I am wondering, what is it that I do to recharge? I'll let you know when I figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'll have to get back to you. I'm sure there's something that I do, but it's definitely not in a space of awareness. Like I probably just go and do it and then I feel better, but I don't necessarily know what that is.
Okay.
Okay, and so I think what goes with that question, because I remember when you were talking about the rat, and said, you know, it was like what somebody on the outside needed to do for the rat.
Yes.
Like it wasn't enough for the rat, you know, if everybody was hanging around chatting, but the rat was organizing it, the rat was not getting support.
Yes.
Support came from somebody else organizing it. So I realized it may be hard to answer this question since you are in fact a tiger, but you know, what does someone from the outside, what can they do for a tiger?
Yeah, that is the drawback of me being a tiger, is I definitely have a lot more insight in some places and blind spots in some others. But I think
Feed me.
What? Feed you?
Feed me.
Feed you?
So what I was gonna say is a close personal conversation where both people are sharing what's going on with them and they make a connection. So not necessarily sitting around a campfire with everyone chatting, but so if I want to say, to get a sense of connection from someone outside of myself, someone who can connect to me would do that. So someone who I can just sit and make a connection to would do that. Providing inspiration, again, that's a wonderful, easy demand, I know.
But offering the connection to something higher. So
Yeah, offering the connection, offering inspiration, offering true communication. They say in Chinese, they say true communication is when you talk from the heart and listen with the kidneys, which I will someday get to the bottom of that, because there's also because it also says in the Psalms, it says God is the one who he sees hearts and examines kidneys. He knows hearts and examines kidneys. I'm currently blanking on the verb. I know, but what does he do to the levavot?
Don't remember.
I know. But also those are like the two organs that God's invested in when he's looking at what a person is really thinking.
Okay, so
that yes,
that was absolutely fascinating, because when I say feed me, I'm really not joking. But
I know.
the reason I need my but it's exactly the same thing as what you just said. I need the fundamentals of life taken care of, so that I can then go and do all of the inspiration and connecting and all of that I
absolutely
love to do.
I mean,
just just dishes and laundry and meal prep make me crazy.
There you go. Take care of the boring, mundane things of life, so that we can go off and be our higher selves on top of a mountain meditating, or help us remember that before enlightenment, you carry water and sweep the floor, and after enlightenment, you carry water and sweep the floor.
No, after enlightenment, you hire someone who enjoys carrying water and sweeping the floor. Like, they like it, and then you just pay them.
Possible that no one here has reached enlightenment yet.
I'm on my way. That is,
that's our goal. Okay, on that note, I think that this is going to be a long enough recording. Does anyone have any more directly tiger related questions or thoughts about supporting tigers, which is clearly a space where I have a bit of a blind spot?
Well, no, actually, that I think that was from both of you. So we get number one, something which Malky talked about earlier, which is telling to someone, do you see the connection between what you're doing and a higher purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Which then sometimes scared people, but that I can see where that, if we see a connection for a tiger, in particular, if a tiger is having trouble seeing their own connection, to a higher purpose, you could offer that. And the other thing is to help them do the fundamental things that are driving them crazy, so that they are more free to focus on the higher purpose.
100%. Thank you for summing that up so well. Everyone can just skip to the end of the video.
That was wonderful.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming. Next week, God willing, will be the rabbit, where we will see a totally different expression of a very similar mix of energies.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
That was really great.
Ending the recording now.
Okay.